We're here to cram for the exam, Andy. We just got off our most recent episode talking about political parties. Let's not stray too far. Let's talk about interest groups.
Yeah, whoa, cowboy. Let's not go too fast. We're still talking about linkage institutions. Political parties are one. Interest groups are also a big one in the United States and probably gaining importance as political parties weaken.
Remember, the fundamental role of political parties is to win elections. The fundamental role of interest groups is to win an issue when debating public policy.
Yes, we know that political parties represent a broad selection of issues. Interest groups are just that. They represent special interests, and it's protected in the First Amendment.
Political parties have a commodity, and that is candidates. Interest groups have a commodity, and that is information. They're all about spreading information to the power players in Washington, D.C., or at any level of government. Remember, they're trying to persuade public policy, and no better way to do that than to manipulate information.
It's all about petitioning the government. And the best way to petition the government is to gain access. Now, that can be access through numbers of having a large demonstration and protest, of gaining the attention of the media. But obviously, increasingly, we're seeing that access being bought in the form of campaign donations.
Andy, this is one reason why interest groups may in fact be growing much faster than political parties. Political parties takes time to change policy. You've got to win elections, recruit candidates, and then hope for the best once you get in the legislative branch. Interest groups can bypass all that. It doesn't matter who's in power, Democrats or Republicans. If you gain access, because that activity is protected by the First Amendment, you might be able to change policy fast.
And we also know that since the 1970s, we've seen a tremendous growth in political interest groups related to corporations. And certainly with recent U.S. Supreme Court decisions about campaign finance, we'll probably see corporation special interest groups, corporate PACs, play even more of a bigger role.
PACs, now you're talking political action committees, Andy. These are the arms of interest groups that are able to give money to candidates.
That's right. Since the 1970s, the federal government has regulated interest groups in how they give to campaigns by making them establish political action committees, which is the financial, legal entity by which a special interest group can donate money.
Andy, let's talk about some of the activities of special interest groups and particular interest groups themselves. One of the more historic interest groups is the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, that used litigation quite successfully throughout the early part of the 20th century to gain greater rights for African Americans.
Because certainly getting legislation passed through Congress can be very difficult, but if you can convince the courts, a few justices here or on the Supreme Court, you can change policy for the entire country.
We're talking about linkage institutions. In the previous episode, we looked at political parties and how they try to win elections by recruiting candidates and changing policy that way. Today we're talking about interest groups. They want to change policy too, but not by winning elections, by changing our minds. What's going on in the news? We know. We're here to cram for the exam. No fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.